Welcome to this explainer. So for centuries, people have looked at the events of the New Testament, specifically the Ascension and the Second Coming of YaHUsha, as, well, kind of disconnected events, right? Like two totally separate chapters. But what if I told you they're actually two halves of the exact same continuous cosmic event? We're diving straight into the prophetic blueprint hidden in the book of Leviticus today, specifically looking at how the Day of Atonement beautifully foreshadows the ultimate deliverance we see mapped out in the book of Revelation.
Let's start by dropping right into the high-stakes, incredibly tense environment of the Israelite camp on the Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur. Picture the scene. You've got thousands of people standing in absolute pin-drop silence in the desert, right outside the Tabernacle. The air is literally heavy with anticipation. Everyone is waiting for one man, the high priest. He's standing there before the most holy place with the blood of a sacrifice, and it is quite literally a matter of life and death, because he is about to step into the immediate, unfiltered presence of Elohim's perfect holiness.
According to the very strict rules of Leviticus, specifically chapter 16 here, the high priest had to completely disappear from the view of the people. No exceptions. He stepped behind this heavy, thick veil to present the blood on the mercy seat, and the people were just left outside, waiting. They couldn't go in, they couldn't peek. They had to stand there in this profound state of suspense, knowing that their forgiveness, basically their survival for the entire next year, depended completely on whether or not that sacrifice was accepted behind the veil.
Now think about that, and look at the Ascension in Acts chapter 1. It creates this immediate, undeniable parallel. While his disciples were standing there watching, YaHUsha was taken up and a cloud received him completely out of their sight. He disappeared. The Ascension wasn't just, YaHUsha leaving Earth for a long break. It marked the exact moment our great high priest stepped behind the cosmic veil. He was entering the heavenly tabernacle to present his own blood as the ultimate, once-and-for-all atonement for us.
Section 1. The Heavenly Calendar, Bridging the Eras.
To really grasp how all this fits together, we have to look at the prophetic blueprint laid out in the biblical feasts. These aren't just quaint historical traditions. They're a literal heavenly calendar mapping out the redemption of the world. Passover, fulfilled by the blood of the Lamb at the crucifixion. Pentecost, fulfilled with the massive outpouring of the Spirit. But then, look at the Day of Atonement. The Ascension often gets treated like this missing link in our theological calendars. But the Day of Atonement beautifully bridges the cross, the Ascension, and the Second Coming into one single continuous redemptive act. The Ascension was the priest going in, and the Second Coming will be the priest coming out. It is all the exact same prophetic feast.
Section 2. The Heavenly Throne Room. Let's track exactly where our high priest went when he disappeared from view based on how the ancient prophets described it. We are heading into the Heavenly Throne Room. The prophet Daniel had this stunning vision in Daniel 7 of the Son of Man coming with the clouds. Now, a lot of people mistake this for a prophecy about the Second Coming, like a downward return to earth. But look closely at the text here. He is coming to the Ancient of Days. He is being brought near before him. Guys, this is actually a breathtaking first-hand depiction of the Ascension. It's an upward arrival at the heavenly throne.
What's super fascinating here is the original language. The specific Aramaic verbs Daniel uses, ate and mata. These words linguistically prove this was a movement towards a destination. This was an inward, upward arrival at the heavenly throne room. So just like the earthly high priest moved inward toward the physical Ark of the Covenant, this perfectly describes YaHUsha moving inward to the true throne of grace to secure his role and receive eternal dominion.
And what happens when he arrives? Well, he unites two totally distinct roles. In the earthly system of ancient Israel, the kings came strictly from the tribe of Judah, right? And priests came strictly from the tribe of Levi, kept totally separate. But in the heavenly reality, these two massive offices are united in one person. YaHUsha's ascension allowed him to rule as king with all authority, while simultaneously and actively mediating as the ultimate high priest for us believers.
Section 3. The Grand Pause, the Era of Suspense.
Which brings us to a really massive question. If the Ascension was him entering the most holy place, what exactly is the time period we are living in right now? Well, the biblical framework suggests we are currently living in what we can call the Grand Pause. Just like the earthly principle where the ancient Israelites waited in breathless silence outside the tabernacle, the heavenly principle is that believers are waiting right now in the world. This entire church age, what some refer to as the symbolic 1,000 years of Revelation 20, is that exact period of suspenseful waiting. We are waiting outside the tabernacle while our high priest is inside making atonement.
So, in the eyes of the world, he is, quote-unquote, gone. But the reality is that the kingdom is definitely not on ice.
He is highly active right now, performing his high priestly service as priest-king. Think of it this way. The cross was the flagpole, but the ascension was the moment the banner of victory was actually hoisted high into heavenly places, waving over the entire cosmos. Our job during this tense waiting period? To loudly proclaim the gospel. We're here to shout to the world that the sacrifice was accepted while he actively mediates on the inside.
Section 4. The priest emerges, the second coming.
And this brings us to the ultimate climax of the biblical narrative. The moment the suspense finally breaks. The moment the veil parts. The second coming is reframed so perfectly here. It's not just some random future invasion from space. If the ascension was him entering the heavenly most holy place, then the second coming is the highly anticipated coming out or emergence from it. Just like Aaron would repeatedly emerge from the earthly most holy place while the people waited in absolute suspense, proving their sins were covered, we are waiting for YaHUsha to step out, proving once and for all that eternal redemption is fully accomplished.
Section 5. The final harvest and the day of YaHUsha.
But what happens when he finally steps out? Well, it kicks off with the Old Testament prophets ominously called the Day of the Lord, bringing profound cosmic consequences to the earth. If we trace this timeline, we see these ancient prophecies transitioning from earthly shadows into hardcore physical realities. The Day of Jehovah prophesied by Zechariah and Joel isn't just an abstract theological idea anymore. It gets a literal face in the New Testament. It becomes the literal return of Yeshua on the clouds, which ultimately culminates in the Great White Throne Judgment, where our high priest executes final justice. And just look at how flawlessly the scriptures align here. The parallels between the Old Testament Day of the Lord and the New Testament Second Coming are absolutely exact. In Zechariah, he descends with power. In Revelation, he returns on clouds. Joel says the sun darkens and the moon bleeds. Well, Matthew and Revelation record the exact same cosmic signs. Joel prophesied a valley of decision. The New Testament reveals the final separation of the sheep and the goats. The final emergence of the high priest brings absolute, unavoidable judgment.
Which brings us directly to Revelation 20, verse 9. When the high priest finally emerges, fire comes down from Elohim out of heaven. For the wicked, for Gog and Magog, this fire is a terrifying judgment that completely devours them. But, and this is absolutely vital to understand, for the patiently waiting believers, for the beloved city, this exact same fire is the ultimate cleansing deliverance. It destroys the threats, it purifies the earth, and it perfectly prepares everything for the marriage of the Lamb.
The long wait outside the tabernacle is almost over, and our high priest is about to emerge. So the ancient text leaves us with a final, really provocative thought to consider. As you stand outside the tabernacle in this tense, grand pause of history, are you ready? When that veil finally parts and he steps out, will his fire be your absolute judgment or your ultimate deliverance?